Welcome to V2V podcast, Vision to Value. Hi, I'm Daiji Kimura. I'm the head of growth at Invedo, a custom software agency, and the founder of daijikimura.com, where we help to execute innovative projects that really deliver, whether that's boosting ROI, increasing sales, or driving meaningful change. If you're managing digital projects or leading a tech business, you're in the right place. I know how overwhelming it can be to stay on top of trends, manage constant change, and cut through the noise. That's why this podcast is all about keeping complex topics simple, hands-on, and grounded. As a former athlete, I understand that achieving goals takes practice, focus, and the right guidance. Think of this podcast as your training ground for success in innovation. And now, let's dive in. What's up, everyone? I wanted to tackle a topic that hits close to home for a lot of us: how not to go crazy in the tech industry. I've been in the industry for almost a decade, run my own tech business, and worked at an AI company back in 2018, worked on over 100 of projects in different dev houses. And I've seen plenty of next big things come and go. And I think that tech is exhilarating. It's a massive sandbox for endless possibilities, where how much you know can mean more than where you went to school or where you're from. So you can work basically remotely, pivot jobs if you're not vibing with the company culture, and essentially chart your own path. I can talk about freedom in IT for hours. But here's the flip side. With so much new stuff dropping every day, it's ridiculously easy to have an imposter syndrome, feel guilty, or start questioning if you really belong in this space. Social media such as LinkedIn or X, information overload in general, just make it even worse. Just recently, I hit up TechX Global in London. It's a big event, loads of enterprise tech, loads of innovation directors. And I remember that during one of the panel, one of the speakers asked the audience, "Who's feeling overwhelmed lately?" And every single person raised a hand. And that was weirdly comforting. And I was like, okay, I'm not alone here. So it got me thinking, and I needed to record an episode about it. And that's what exactly we're doing today. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's talk about the tech hype frenzy. Look, every day there's a new acronym or technology that's apparently going to solve all our problems. Blockchain, NFTs, metaverse, and now, obviously, AI. It's no wonder a lot of us feel like we're drowning in buzzwords. The media hype, the founders chasing VC cash, the experts trying to build a following, they all turn the volume up on the hype machine. If you're a CIO, innovation lead, or an entrepreneur out there thinking, I can't keep up with this, you're not alone. My goal is to help you take a step back, breathe, and get a handle on what really matters for you and your organization. But first, let's flip the question and have some fun. So, how to go crazy in tech? And here's your handy checklist. First, scrolling on social media and jumping into comment wars on LinkedIn or X with strangers you don't really care about. Believing every flashy pitch, especially from the folks whose job is literally to pump hype from investors' dollars. For example, AGI is coming. Shoehorning emerging tech into everything, even where it doesn't fit. Optimizing bad processes instead of asking if those processes need to exist at all. Constantly comparing yourself without reflecting on what you actually want out of your career. Forgetting that humans stay human, no matter how advanced our gadgets become. Using shallow analogies over first principles and missing the deeper reality behind the hype. That's basically the recipe for burning out, or worse, losing your sense of purpose. So let's avoid that, okay? So if you need a reality check, you have to get a perspective. Look, I'm not a therapist, and I can't wave a wand to make your hype-induced stress vanish. But I can offer you a different lens, some theories and practical anecdotes that might help you breathe and realize, hey, everybody is feeling this, like I did in the conference in London. One of my favorite frameworks for unpacking tech hype is Gartner's hype cycle. It's a simple chart mapping technology's journey across 5 phases. So first is innovation trigger, the second is peak of inflated expectations, then you have a trough of disillusionment, then you have slope of enlightenment, and then plateau of productivity. Now, it's not some holy scripture, but it's a handy tool for asking, should I get involved in this technology right now? Or should I wait a bit? Or perhaps skip it entirely? Here's where it gets fun. The same cycle often happens in our dating lives. Let me break it down and refer it to the real relationship. So at first you meet someone who's amazing and sparks fly. And then you have the peak of inflated expectations and you say, oh my gosh, this is perfect, this is it. That person is gonna fix my life and everything's gonna be great. After some time, you end up in the trough of disillusionment. So basically you're disappointed, you started to noticing the flaws, that perfect image cracks, the crisis hits, and you can basically break up. And then if you work it through, you go to the slope of enlightenment. If you stick around, you learn to deal with this realness and the relationship grows even stronger. And then you have plateau of productivity. So after a while, it's just a stable, happy partnership. So it's the same emotional roller coaster, just with technology. And if we can laugh about it in dating, we can laugh about it in tech too. Now, let's go over some examples from the tech industry while navigating through the hype cycle. So at first you have the innovation trigger. A new tech emerges, maybe from a lab discovery or a tiny startup that cracks something incredible. At this point, the general public doesn't know much. Should you, as a CIO or business person, care right away? Probably not, unless you're deep in research and development or looking for that ultra early mover advantage. And the good example here is Google's white paper in 2017 called Attention is All You Need, introducing transformers architecture in generative AI. It was a total game changer for AI text generation, but it started out in a pretty niche corner of the AI world. And then the phase 2 comes in, which is the peak of inflated expectations. Now, everybody is buzzing. Media, investors, and even politicians start proclaiming, this changes everything. Suddenly, you see people funneling tons of money and resources into the new tech, worried they'll miss out on the gold rush. And the upsides of this phase is that you can ride the wave, get funding, and become a thought leader if you want. But the downsides are, for example, you risk over-promising and under-delivering, which crashes trust. And also, basically, it's a fear-driven decision that rarely ends well. But here's something interesting. Even if hype can be obnoxious, it does bring together a ton of people, which often sparks great innovations. Sometimes the mania leads to breakthroughs that no one expected. Then we have phase 3, the trough of disillusionment. So when the bubble pops, the hype party ends. So failures dominate the headlines, investors pull out, and disillusioned adopters move on. But in that chaos, the real builders show up. I remember back in 2021, people really believed NFTs would revolutionize art, music, real estate, or legal industry by putting things into smart contracts. What's worse, celebrities jumped in and urged the public to buy JPEGs for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And people who were heavy believers now realize that most of the use cases were simply worthless. As much as this phase seems like a total crap, it is actually good for those who really cared about inventing useful solutions by using the technology, instead of dilettantes and fraudsters who just wanted to capitalize on hype, those who survive the trough of disillusionment. The new phases begins. And now we're moving on to the slope of enlightenment. By this point, survivors have learned from the previous mistakes, and the technology becomes more practical, more affordable, and can solve real problems. The winners often scoop up intellectual property and talent from the losers, emerging even stronger. A good example is blockchain. While many hype-driven coins tanked, companies like Walmart refined blockchain for supply chain tracking, which is actually valuable for their operations. So the last part of the cycle is plateau of productivity. And here, finally, the tech is mainstream and integrated everywhere. Nobody really calls it new anymore. It's just part of life, like cloud computing or electricity. This is also where a phenomenon called Jevons paradox often kicks in. You make a technology more efficient and the usage skyrockets. That's why all AI will kill jobs or the e-commerce will replace bricks and mortar store will never really happen. Instead, we ended up creating new types of roles, and ironically, many of us are busier than ever. So if you're leading innovation, try to spot where you are on that cycle. Sometimes going against the crowd is the smartest move, like picking up undervalued assets in the trough of disillusionment, or, sending a handwritten letters when everybody else is spamming with AI-generated emails. So try to embrace the contrarian in you. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. To be honest, talking about how not to go crazy in the tech industry while frequently dealing with imposter syndrome or a sense of insignificance can really feel ridiculous. It actually took me weeks to prepare this episode because I felt inadequate and I wanted to abandon recording it. I like to think that we all stand on the shoulders of giants, and as an individuals, we can never be perfect or know everything. Please try to understand yourself and your goals and be okay with the fact that you're just contributing your own small part toward overall humanity's development. At the end of the day, your well-being and happiness are what matter most, and those are often found outside of business or work. Oh, by the way, I would love to hear from you. Let me know where you think we are with the AI hype. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or in the comment sections, wherever you listen to the podcast. And that's all for today. Thank you very much. Stay healthy and happy, and talk to you soon. Bye.